Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us, to the great mystery, beyond the veil, those synchronistic messages and breadcrumbs that just fall right into place for us. And then we follow them and we find some new doorway. It's just amazing. Your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and I love having these conversations. I love living this magical life. I love opening to the divine. It always feels better. And I love helping people learn how to do that for themselves so that, you're having your own mystic journey every single day of your life. So much fun. So if you're interested in that, check out my website, carriehummingbird.com, KERRI hummingbird.com, and check out Butterfly Circle and all the other stuff I got going on. Lots of opportunities to hop on in and get that magic. So today I'm inviting to the show Infiniti. Welcome, Infiniti.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm really
glad to be here.
I'm excited for our discussion. Okay, so
Me
Infiniti
too.
is the real deal messenger. I totally know what that means too, because there's a lot of people practicing, and when there's nothing wrong with practicing is good. And then it's also nice to know, like, okay, there's somebody who really is actually here that can help you and give you some good solid stuff. So psychic, physical empath, yes. Medical medium and distance quantum healer, channel medium, spirit liaison, you name it, she's got it. And she creates art. She works with people and their animals worldwide to transmute negative energies and eliminate chronic illness and pain, and to maximize energetic balance and flow, boosting life force energy. She works with and channels the angelic realms and Mother Gaia and ascended masters like Jesus and the High Council to facilitate healings and bring divine messages to the collective. Her passion is working with and helping fellow empaths and light workers to deconstruct trauma and negative programming, clear, heal, and get to neutral, to find authenticity by understanding how their body and energy works and help them connect to their spirit tribe. And she's got a podcast, Evolve Now Lightworkers. I'm going to be on that too, so check that out. Kindred spirit.
I know.
Spirit. Thank goodness. So
I'm so glad you can relate with that mouthful.
I know. I was like, I know all these things. It was like my twin. So
I know. It's so cool.
So we're going to have a good conversation today. So Infiniti.
Yeah.
I always ask people to start by telling us, like, how did you get started with this? Like, did you just like walk onto the planet remembering everything, or did you have to have a journey? Like, what's it been like?
God. I wish you know what? I distinctly remember being a little kid and being so confused with like feeling so kind of lost, just feeling everything, just feeling confused about how people lived and interacted. And I understood that I was reincarnated, that I'd been here before. I felt like an old soul when I was very little. And it seemed like I had stuff just kind of check marked out that, and the world didn't. And I just mean that like, it seemed like the questions that I would hear about the world just seemed kind of more obvious to me as to why they were like, why were they questions, and what was this disconnect, when it was just really plain for me. When I was a little kid, I started getting messages from people, and like 5 years old, but I started having physical issues as a very like baby, that they really couldn't ever figure out. And that was just a constant presence in my life. But when I was 5, I started really getting messages for people. So we would be at a dinner party or a party or just hanging out at the beach or pool, whatever. And all of a sudden I would get, that sweep of information for somebody. And I was compelled, I was supposed to tell it. And as a child, I didn't understand half of what I was talking about, like specifically. I, on like an adult level, because sometimes it was about business and finance and health situations I had no idea about, but the information came so I could give messages. And people were like, whoa, how does she, you know, like, how do you know these details to tell me this stuff? And it was also weird for me to give them the messages because I would also feel like some of that would be private. So I wouldn't just be like, yo, here's the message. So it was really, you know, odd for me to try to figure out that balance. But then people would be like, look at her. And I'm like, oh, I am supposed to be loud about this. It was really confusing. But unfortunately, I had a very narcissistic mother, and she loved that attention that I got, and I don't remember the details or how long into it of so many of those little instances it happened where they're like, hey, why don't we set up a time where she'll come in and we'll just have, you know, it'll be one, you know, basically a session, a group session. And I know I did several of those for a matter of at least a year and a half or two. But it increasingly got more frustrating for me because the people wouldn't listen. And then they would come back with the same problems or increased problems from the problems they had because they didn't listen to their guides and their messages. And because it all involves change. So people aren't into change. And as a child, I was like, why didn't you just do what I told you to do? Like, now you got a bigger problem. And as a child, I was just like, what is the problem here?
Why is it so hard?
Why is this so hard? And then it was like, and then I started to resent it. I started to really resent it because I was inside with the adults while all of my friends, the kids my age, and, you know, all of them were riding bikes and in the pool and swimming, you know, doing fun things. And I was talking to stubborn adults who wouldn't listen to me time after time, you know. It's like, and it didn't mean I knew I was different because the other kids didn't do what I did. It wasn't that wasn't it. And I enjoyed doing it, but not when they didn't listen, which was the majority of the time. And it was more like I felt like I was this little show pony. It was like, oh, let's watch her jump and play and do her little thing and be all in, you know, awe by her, and then just go about our lives, you know, and not. So it was like, why am I doing this? I got to a point where I was like, why am I doing this? And then one day we were going to a party, and my mother, as I'm sitting in the back seat, she's driving and she looks in the rearview mirror. It's just so vivid. And she says something like, you know, why don't you just try to be more positive and not sometimes so serious about what you're telling everybody? And sometimes it upsets them, like what you're telling them. And I'm like, okay. And then I just sat there and I thought, you know what? I can't do this anymore, especially now if I'm going to be, I didn't know what the word meant that back then or what it was called, but she was trying to censor the message or the messages. And it just really made me mad. and I was like 7 years old or 7.5, something like that. And looking back, it's such a ridiculous situation to be in, but that was my life. And I said, you know what? I've been trying to figure out how to tell you this, but I haven't heard the angels anymore. They're not giving me messages and I don't know what to do. And she was like, she knew I was lying. And, but I was at a crossroads. I didn't want to do it anymore. And she really just pushed me over the edge. I'd been thinking about it. I didn't want to let people down. And I felt like it was just a really frustrating situation for me to be in, aside from other life stuff, you know? And basically, yeah, we got to the party and I had to break it to the lady who set everything up that she could just see by our looks and our faces that something was off. She's like, I set it all up, and I felt really bad for her. And I wasn't my mom was really mad at me because I was lying. And she knew I was lying because I don't usually lie. And she knew that it wasn't true. And she couldn't, you know, she was just so really embarrassed about it. And she liked being the mom of the daughter who did this. And I really didn't care anymore at that point. And I just remember it was kind of like just taking off the biggest heaviest, wettest, ugliest coat, you know, that you're forced to, you know, it just so much of this energy that it was put upon me at such a young age. Even though on some level I understood it so much better than all of them, you know, it was so frustrating for me. And I just went, no more. And I walked outside and I jumped in the pool and all the kids were like, what are you doing here? And I was like,
how come you get to come play
yeah,
now?
they're like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm like, I'm not doing it anymore. And they kind of looked at me, they're like, you can just do that? And I'm like, well, I just did it. So
yeah, I'm just deciding I'm not going to play this game anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And then, yeah, just kind of the world just kind of shifted, and it was like, I put down the wall, and slowly, even though throughout my life I had a lot of spiritual and metaphysical, you know, situations and seeing apparitions, and I levitated when I was a child.
That's cool.
Yeah. That was an event. I can tell you about that. That had nothing to do with my awakening. That's a fun story. I actually have that story on my podcast. So if people want to hear that story, you can listen to that story on my podcast. We don't need to waste time here. But yeah, so I've had situations where, you know, all of that, but, and other psychics, throughout my life, when they would meet me, they would be like, wow, you're really connected. You have a huge, they'd be like, whoa, your tribe or whatever is massive. And I'd be like, okay, you know, I'd be like, all right, you know, people just, you know, the ones that were like, I've had
yeah.
all these reactions to me, like, what are you doing with that? Like in my adult life. And I was a normal, regular in the matrix person my whole life. I mean, well, I was really sick physically my whole life too. So that hindered a lot of stuff, but I've been in almost every industry you can imagine, real estate and finance and marketing. And I was in the veterinary field. That was like my last like professional stint before the last time I had to be put on disability. I'd probably been put on disability 8-9 times within a 10 or 15 year period, be like 1 year on, 1 year off, because my body just couldn't do it. And I would try to, maybe I'll do this kind of job, maybe I'll have this kind of thing, you know. I would try so many different ways, and I had no idea I was a physical empath. Nobody connected the dots. People would be like, wow, you're really psychic, if they met me and whatever. But it was never like, oh, do you think that maybe your physical problems has to do with your psychic, you know? None of that was ever connected. I even had my mother's father in Colombia. Mm-hmm. He was a parapsychologist. And one of my first, when I was 9, we went there. So it was a couple years after I stopped practicing as a child. It's a couple years later, and my mom had told him about me, and he met me when I was really, really little, like tiny. And so a lot of, 6-7 years went by. We went back there. I remember he took one look at me and he went, come with me. He just was like, you come with me. Like, we barely had any relationship. He spoke full on Spanish. I knew Spanish from my mother, but it was some getting used to, though. It was, everybody spoke Spanish, obviously. And all I did with him was work on astral projection and hypnosis and working with a pendulum and focusing my energy, because he's like, this is something going on here, and he was so, that's what he did for profession. He was a parapsychologist. So I worked with him for a while when we were there, not too much, but aside from those early days and then having my normal life and being sick and all of that stuff, I didn't live a life with playing with tarot cards and channeling anybody or any of that stuff. I always felt really spiritual, but I didn't go down a spiritual path of that stuff. They basically came from me when after probably the last time I was on disability, and just spent a lot of time wondering why I was in existence. Like, what's the point of my life? Is it sitting around taking medications, going to specialists? Like, all I did was, I was in bed and miserable. I could barely do anything. I go to the doctors, I take my medication. One day it goes into the other, different pains, different days, it's just so miserable. And I'm like, what's the point of this? Why am I here? I'm just here to be miserable in this life. I can't even lead a normal life. And I just got increasingly more suicidal. I would just spend my time just thinking about, just fantasizing about all the different ways that I could kill myself because I had nothing better to do. I was always about at least 40 pounds heavier than I am now my whole life. And then that would fluctuate. At one point at the end of high school, I got over 200. I think there's different reasons for that, but there was just never any stretch of time that I felt really good, you know? And I always felt like this isn't really me. And there would be little spikes in time where it would be like, oh, I feel kind of like what everybody else looks like and must feel like, but it wouldn't last long, you know? And depending on what was going on or who was around, it would be difficult. But there was so much static and so much fog that I'd never consider myself. If you would have told me, let me put it this way. If you would have told me, Carrie, 10 years ago, if you would have read back what you just wrote and said, and I would have been like, whoa, who's that? You'd been like, you lady, in 10 years, I'd be like, you're psychotic. You're crazy. Because there's no way. I mean, the paradigm shift between what I was before for a solid 40 years of my life, basically, to now is just so different.
So radically different. Yeah.
So radically different. Yeah. I mean, I lived in a state of pain. It was impossible to sleep. I was depressed. Everything. I had severe fibromyalgia. My body was a wreck. I mean, I was a mess. It was bad. And then I was just guided, obviously, to when I started asking all those questions, it was like, okay, well, let's try to throw her some answers and see what sticks. And because I'd always delved into the soul stuff. Like if you looked at my books, it would be like, there's a book about souls. There's a book about, it was all like, all of that stuff was always super interesting to me. So I was always kind of like in there, but just, it was so thick. I couldn't grab on anything. And there was nobody ever around to really be like, let me pull you into this and get you cleaned out and kind of figuring this stuff out about yourself. I didn't have that. So they came after me when I started asking questions, which is a really typical way it goes. You tell people, if you start asking questions about why you're here, what your purpose is, what you start sincerely asking those questions, you will be presented with the answers or the way to get to the answers. And that's what happened with me. I started meditating. I started doing yoga. I started just losing weight that way and feeling better. And then one day I did a meditation and they they invited me to a different place. And in that realm and meditation, where they asked me to go, and I was very glad to go. I had no idea who they were, what they were. I know now they're archangels. Then I had no idea. And for a long time, I had no idea. It wasn't necessary. And I think back then, I would been like, okay, like, conceptually thinking about, and I get it when people are like, okay, angels and archangels, gotcha, okay, and to me it was always like more of a symbolic thing than a real divine entity thing, like, so back then I don't know how I would have received that, like, but they were just big orbs of energy, just beautiful. The whole thing was beautiful. And I also write about this, and I have this on video and stuff. So if anybody wants the long version of this story, you can get it. the bottom line is that they downloaded me with, you're not really sick. It's all about energy. You've been absorbing all this crap from everybody. And they shot me like all these pictures in this lifetime of animals and people that were ill or injured that I'd been around, and they just got well really fast. And they're like, that was you and your energy. And there's this thing. And I was like, oh, and it was like, ding, 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 everything they were telling me. And they were saying like, in all of your lifetimes, you have been some version of this, and you know this. So actually your body is just great. It's just you haven't been managing it right because you didn't know any better, kind of thing. Like, here's the information, here's why. And everything just felt so on point. It was just like, it was the most amazing thing, because it was feeling it in my body, feeling the truth of it, getting the visions of it, feeling these moments in these different lifetimes where I was there and that's what I was. And it was just like these flashes of these people around me and this is what I was doing, and boom, 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 it was so intense. It's just so hard to describe, but it was amazing. And everything was just like, oh, okay. It's like, here we are explaining to you. I mean, at that time, it felt like you're explaining my life. Like, you're explaining it to me, like all the answers that I ever wanted. And it was like,
I love when those happen.
Huh?
I love when those kind of meditations happen. When you get all the dots connected and everything.
Oh,
the answers.
God, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Give me the answers.
Yes, it was amazing. And that was my first kind of glimpse into knowing, like, you know what, the answers are actually so much closer for us than we realize. It's just, they're, yeah, we get a lot of answers in paper and from each other and stuff, but we really got to go to other places and be open to other things and beings that we cannot see and touch in this reality, to help us connect to the stuff we already know. We just don't remember it. It's not about so much learning as it is about remembering.
Well, what did you remember about your physical body and protecting yourself that you didn't remember before that was causing you to get sick?
Oh, it was well, once I got out of that meditation and they really insisted that I get up and I do this whole thing about getting into my energy, and I pulled all that sludgy crap out, and it felt like that.
You just pulled it out, right? Just pulled out
just was like, yeah, I did. I know that from my consciousness going up into that other way higher dimension, my body kind of cycling this energy for those 45 minutes that I was in that space. My physical body time was weird because it felt like 5 minutes there, but here it was 45 minutes. I know that because the guided meditation that I began and ended right as I came back. Otherwise, I would have been like, I was gone 5 minutes, but it wasn't. It was just, time was very weird there. But when I came out and then I did that, I just felt that heaviness that I felt my whole life. I mean, I would tell people when I was sick with fiber and everything, I would tell people, like, it feels like my arm weighs 200 pounds. Like, to reach and move and get the remote control to change the channel on the TV seems like a marathon at times. Like, and I don't think people can quite understand how heavy energy can be. And I didn't know that that's what it was. I just thought my body was just completely like so broken. And it was in pain. I knew every single type. I felt every single kind of pain that there possibly can be. And stuff would come and go so fast in and out of, it would be this and then it would be that. And I mean, from day to day, week to week, if you ask me, like, okay, how was your physical condition and what did you experience last week? I would say, I have no idea. It's deleted because I can't keep that stuff in my mind or else I'll go crazy because it's too much pain. I delete every single day. I have to. It was the only way that I could survive my existence back then. And I wasn't into painkillers, so I just kind of had to deal with it. It wasn't until it was so bad that I mean, that I could not get past it, that I would take any kind of painkillers. It just wasn't my thing. So I couldn't really find the relief that way. But anyway, to answer your question, it was getting that out initially and then feeling the difference. It was like, oh, this is what it feels like.
Feels a lot lighter, doesn't it?
Oh my God. It was unbelievable how different it felt from one, like, in 90 seconds from the time I stood up, got up and did this thing and kind of pulled it out, and I spoke to my body and I spoke to my energy, and I acknowledged it all. You know, it wasn't like every kind of, from my very first healing, which was my own consciously, and to every healing I do, it's a loving act. It's not like, get away, pain. It's like, it's more like, this energy is here for a reason. We have to acknowledge the energy. We have to see where it comes from. We have to take care of it on that level so we can truly transmute, or else it's not going to go. So from that point, I was like, I see it for what it is. I feel it for what it is, but I don't need this anymore. And I was so primed and ready to get in there and have it go, that it went. And so from that point, I had that. Then I was neutral. When you talk in the intro, when I say neutral, that's what I'm talking about. Like, what do you feel like when you don't have decades of energy from your own self and your own issues or emotions and traumas and situations and everybody else's? And every human has that, but some of us really have that.
Yeah, and then we act out because we're overloaded with all the bad feelings. Like, I didn't necessarily have so much physical pain, but I had like just emotional pain. Like, I would be really upset and angry, and like, just get so full with that I just had to act out. And then people would say, see, like, you look at you're the problem, you're the one that acts out. And I'm like, because you guys are denying, like, you're just denying your emotional experience, and I'm feeling like a sponge soaking it up, and you guys just act like it's not there.
That is so,
but it's totally there.
Yes, that's what's so frustrating. It's like, as an empath, and you have more of the typical reaction that empaths have, with it being that emotional load that you and so a lot of empaths have that the depression, the anxiety, the social
I had a lot of depression,
social anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of issues with like trust and abandonment and all that stuff, because you feel yours, but it's also everybody else's, and it's so hard to differentiate. Oh, well, that's that person's, and it's not soaking in and dinging on my, it weighs. All of it is going to weigh down. And so for the physical empath, a lot of that manifests literally in the body. Like, I can literally feel what other people feel in their body. So if you're sitting here and your knee is killing you, my knee is killing me. And I didn't realize that. And because not everybody stands around talking about how they're in pain. And a lot of people have negative energy that's causing dissonance in the body that they're not really conscious of, because it's presenting in a different place. But I pick up on where it's all of it, from root to tip. And so, but I didn't realize I was doing that, because I wasn't, you have to think about how many times you just isolated without the effects of so many other people constantly around you. Like, it's like, I explain this to people and they're like, oh, I get that. You feel that one person. It's like, yeah, but then I feel everybody else too. So it really is convoluted, and it just it's just this tidal wave of all these different places and pains and shit going off all over the place, and then sometimes it'd be really isolated. Now, because I'm so filtered and cleared out, I can feel just the knee. I could be I'll be walking my dog, and all of a sudden my hip will be killing. This happened. I was walking my dog, I'm standing there, I'm turned this way. All of a sudden my hip starts killing me. And that hip pain would be the one where I would pop a bike in, and like, that would be like, I can't. And so I'm really sensitive. I was like, oh my God, what is happening right now? And I turn around and this woman had come out of her home about 200 yards away on a walker. And I was like, oh, it's you. And then as soon as I like made the connection and I cut it off, and then it's gone. So now whether I can, so I don't always see somebody that I may be picking up on energetically. That I can be, it's happened to me several times where I'm in this store and I'm feeling the energy of the store next door, or who's in the store next door. So it's not always like, oh, it's that person or it's that person. It's just more like ding, ding, ding. This is energy you're feeling, but it's not you. But my natural, it's like I have no matter how hard or how many times you might do a shielding meditation, which I highly recommend for anybody who's energetically sensitive. And those are really important. And I have several of those meditations available across my platforms. But even when you do those, you can't escape what you are and where you are and who's around you 100% of the time. And you know what? You're not meant to. I'm a strong advocate of, you're not meant to shut it all down. You're not meant to shield yourself completely from the energies around you.
I am not on earth. I am not in a body. I did not come here. I did not agree to this.
Exactly. It's like when I started getting into this and starting to peel back the layers and figure out stuff, a lot of the information that I got was, oh, empaths are really delicate and fragile. You have to really shield up and stay away from these situations. Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wait a minute.
We're badasses.
I'm like, wait a minute. We're superheroes. We're not. And
we hear not only our pain, but everybody else's. Come on.
Yeah, we just need to, I try to get people to understand, we're in these super organic spacesuits, and we don't come with a manual. Nobody has a manual. Nobody has their own. Nobody has anybody else's. There's human
design charts, which are pretty helpful, but besides that, you can get some clues about yourself.
True, but
yeah, you got to figure it out.
Everybody's also different. Everybody also, but especially in our past history, we weren't born into families going, okay, so this is how it works with energy and bodies and like, we just didn't have that. So we're just willy-nilly flying around, just doing the best we can, exploding or being in pain, because this is what our bodies were doing. We're doing the best we can, and the human condition is, I mean, aside from that, life is hard, and there's all sorts
a lot of people are on this planet are very dense and dense and dense. There's a lot of density going on, and so when I say dense, I mean like the energy is dense, and I used to be dense like that, and then I figured out some things. I had a spiritual healing, and I was like, oh, wait a second, I'm not dense anymore. Oh, okay. And so I de-densified myself over the course of, I feel like this is the work. It's like, de-densifying and like, expanding in light and creating more spaciousness. And then the soul can permeate the body, the physical being more. And it's just, then it's lighter, and that's enlightening. I really think it's just enlightening. It just means less density, more light, more soul, less physical matter. Like, it's just enlightening.
Yeah.
And when you're more physical matter and more human, you're really dense, and it's hard to be around that when you're an empath. It feels very, I guess that's what people would call, I think when people say toxic or uncomfortable to be around certain people, I think it's that. I think it's the density of the energy, and not only the density, but like the frequencies that these kinds of people who are really dense tend to have, like anger, depression, fear, and all that kind of stuff, tend to be in the more density.
Right. Well, and the problem with people that are operating at those lower frequencies as a default is that their life force battery is always like under even that 50%. So
yeah, they don't know that either. That
they don't know that. They don't know.
And when you're all charged up, like I've been I've been away on a retreat one time where I got really charged up in Peru. Like my battery just went, you know, and then
Yeah.
I went to the office, you know, and I didn't normally visit the office, and I went to the office, and all the engineers are like sitting, and everybody's sitting in their cubes, and they're all like at this, they're like, it's like, here's full battery, and they're like, they're all, and I could see it. I could see that they were at low battery. I was like, wow, I've never seen that before. That was trippy.
Yeah, and those people will siphon off of you because you have the higher vibrational energy. And without even knowing it, they're the ones that they'll do it either energetically without even needing to interact with you, or it'll be really intense with somebody really like coming and interacting with you, and you know, either having like there's different things people do to because they're also emotionally that they're dealing in that emotional space, so they'll need to, those are usually people that are complaining, they're gossiping,
Yeah,
you know, all that kind of stuff, they're bitching about their
creates a lot of
lovers,
negative spiral energy.
right, narcissistic behavior, that sort of thing. Not that it's not okay to vent and stuff, but there's just people that's their default. They go to you to do this. I used to, in my previous life, I didn't know what was happening, but I used to call them the takers. I'm like, I used to identify people. You're a taker. You only come around. You only call me. You only want to see me when you want to take from me. And it's not reciprocal. It's all about you. It's all about your story, your event, your situation, your drama with your person, whatever's going on with you. And it just for however long it might be, you know, with some people. And then,
Yes.
all right, I'm out. See ya. And then they're gone until the next time they need to come in and do that. And well before I started, you know, figuring stuff out, I was like, I started cutting those people out of my life, and I realized that I just went, I had to do this thing. Let's balance stuff out here. Do you make me feel more good, or do you make me feel more bad? I don't care what the reasons are. My interactions with you, I need to figure this out. And anybody who landed in the one category of you make me, for whatever reason, feel more negative, or I have a more negative, you know, experience in life because of my association with you, they were out. Within like a year, I cut out like 10 people out of my life. And this was like probably 20 years ago.
Although now that you practice healing, you know, because really what that is it's wounding, right? It's just people that are, because I just know, because I used to be like this. So for 20 years, I was on the couch. I was on the couch talking about my problems, you know, every week. And I was like trying to figure me out. I just feel like I was filled with pain. I just filled with so much pain. And nothing would make it better. Even the happy pills, they don't make it better. You know,
because they're not addressing the issue. They're not getting rid of the energy. No, they're not getting rid of the energy. It's not getting rid of the energy.
But see, like, I was so filled up with my own stuff that I couldn't, like, I literally did that. Like, I know I did. I would call people and I'd be like, just all about my problems. And then I would just like try to make space for their thing. But like, it was really just because I needed so much. But then as I started learning about this and I started on this part of my path, I realized, oh, I'm soaking up like everybody's stuff. So I think this is a common pathway for empaths to realize that they're empaths, is because you feel totally overwhelmed by all the shit that's burdening you. Totally. And you're the only one that's like the one that's going to get self-help and everything, because everybody else acts like they don't have any problems. So, I mean, I think it's just really learning. It's like seeing the hallmark signs, that the signs that you might be an empath and taking on all the world's problems.
Yeah.
And you're fucking exhausted and you can't handle anymore. It's like, time to stop, you know, and draw that boundary. And you're right. I know those people that like, so when I left my former husband, I literally watched him cave in on himself. Like he actually like got tighter and tighter and smaller and smaller and tighter and tighter and smaller and smaller, because I wasn't filling his cup anymore, because I cut it off. I was like, nope, we don't have that relationship anymore. You don't just get to siphon my energy off.
Yeah. Yeah. And
find your own connection.
That's if you have one person. Some people have multiple people that are doing this to them, and they're such the empath, they're such the helper, they're such the healer that they can't say no, even though they don't realize the detriment that it is to their physical body when they're not keeping this stuff in check. When they're
I've had many lessons around that, Infiniti.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Woo!
It can be really, really
It
rough.
it
You
can be
have to.
bad.
It can. One of the like one of the lessons is figuring yourself out is what's the balance, because we realize, I think we get to a point we realize, okay, I'm meant to be in service. Where's the balance?
Like
Where,
how much at a time?
how much at
100%?
the time, to
50%?
whom, how, in what way, especially if we're doing it for a profession as well, if we get to that point. It is, but the very least of the very bottom basic of it is the authenticity of just what, like you were saying before, getting to a point where you can connect with your soul, you can connect with you, or just you, without the other stuff imposing its energy on you, making you into something that you're not. See,
Mm-hmm.
so many empaths that I meet, they don't even know they have no idea what
Well,
they're
they don't
meant
know.
to do.
Nobody tells you where the boundary is. That's the thing. Like they always tell me in psychotherapy, you don't have any boundaries. It's your problem. I'm like, well, how do I get one? And so when I went to the Four Winds Light Body School, they taught us how to get it. They taught us to open our eighth chakra and open it up, and then you know where you are. And then once you know where you are, and you feel other people's auras, and then they take it off, you're like, oh, okay, like that's me. This is just light worker stuff. Like you just have to learn who you are, where your boundaries are. And then when you know it, it's already built in. It's like nobody sent you down here to earth without a boundary. It's just that you forgot where it was. That's all.
Yeah, we forgot a lot of stuff. We don't,
We
well,
forgot so much.
we have to understand it from like a real, like just the basics of it. No matter what our soul history or soul story is, and what incarnations or how infinite, our specific souls
So
are,
infinite.
what we've been a part of. When we're born into baby bodies, none of that matters. And even for the most, like, even for me, when I was doing psychic stuff, I was like, you asked me, like, did you come? No, I didn't. I had to figure it out the hard way, and and really, if it wasn't for my just being guided blindly, without even knowing I was being guided, to take the steps to get to the different places I was going. And it was even years after I had physically healed myself, Carrie, that I was at a point where things were really starting to connect in that otherworldly way again. Even though I had that one experience and all the other experiences, it still didn't, that wasn't like the great, like, oh, so now there's a spiritual thing and da 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 da. It still didn't do it for me. I still, like, there was a couple years there where I was still trying to figure out, like, what was how, like, my whole everything was different, but nothing was different. And at the same time, I felt like things were going to change, but they weren't changing. It was really weird. And finally things started to really turn around, and open up in a way where I was being kind of pulled towards more spiritual things online, and really kind of dissecting the whole empath thing. For a long time, I was just like, oh, I'm an empath. It took a couple years before and I finally found that nugget where it was like, oh, there's this thing called a physical empath. And that was the whole connection, because it wasn't like when I went into that other dimension that they were talking in those terms to me. It was more about getting me clear, making me understand things from a higher perspective. I still had to come down here and figure out what that meant, even though I had healed myself. So not all the dots and lines were connected for me for a while. But then once they did, and I started to understand things and open up just more to energetic happenings and connections with the other side, and feeling that, like, before we started, and you did that beautiful prayer and brought everybody in, like, that whole thing, and feel like I wasn't into that I didn't get there for a while. And it took some time. It really did. But I was open to it, and everything felt really good. And I always felt like I was guided towards things that was another piece of the puzzle. But at its core, it was just about, what's the truth? what's the truth? You know, I just want the truth. As mystical, as fantastical, as spiritual, as whatever is big or little that it might be, I just want the truth. I'll so, you know, that's just it. And I think if you come from that place that you just want the truth about yourself and about the universe, and you're open to receive that truth, and you let go of the beams and the construct that's holding up the ideas and the stories that we were downloaded with as we grew up from other sources that weren't our own soul connection, that weren't our own spiritual connections, that were, you know, maybe things written in books that we couldn't associate with, and it kept us in fear, or whatever. You know, it's like, I realize that there's these universal truths, and spirituality is deep and vast and layered, and people have different connections to different things in this world and in this life, especially because this family is really big that's incarnated here, and our multi-universe is really big and multi-layered. And so we have to have all these different perspectives, I guess you can say.
Yeah, we all have different. I think it's about the different perspectives.
Yeah.
We're witnessing that, you know, and we get to have this unique journey of perspective and sharing perspectives. And, you know, then the download I got a while back was about unique thumbprints. You know, we each have a unique thumbprint. It's the same. Like, this life is a unique thumbprint. There'll never be another one like it. So we get to explore this incarnation as a unique thing that is only going to happen one time. And then we'll have another one, you know, but right now, like, enjoy here, like, just enjoy this. This is what's happening now. And so enjoy it. You know, we get to have some common experience together. It's pretty cool. So how do people work with you? Like, I know that you're a physical empath, but like, how do you work? I think you work over Zoom, right? So you just tune into their energy field, and what is that like?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So basically, yes, everything that I do, I work with people over Zoom, any place, from anywhere in the world. And before anybody would have like a paid session with me, actually, you would go to my website. Actually, I have a questionnaire that you would fill out. We schedule a time to meet online like this, have a conversation, and then we would do a little mini clearing of your energy. So people can really feel without being attached to a burden of a paid session or anything like that. Cause I realized, like, I was guided to have that set up. A few months ago, when I revamped my whole everything that I do a few months ago, and that came because it was like, you know, you don't know until you're there that it's be a thing and feel it, because a lot of people don't expect to actually, like, I didn't think I was actually going to feel anything, and you really do. Your body gets energized, you feel the energy, you know, you feel it. And so that's how it works. In sessions, it's the same thing. We do it on Zoom, and it's just really convenient because you don't have to travel, you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to get in your car. You can just have your healing session in your bed and stay there and just
take a nap. Take a nap and integrate.
Take a nap, integrate. Some people are super, like, everybody has, it's really interesting, is that actually the process is we do a first meeting, and then whatever healings that I have kind of a 2-phase healing, different things that I offer. I have a large menu of services. But if it's my staple healing, what I do one session where we work completely and totally with your chakras. It's really deep. It's all about grounding, clearing, and infusion with Mother Earth and her energy. So that takes a long time. So it's its own session. And then within 2 or 3 days max, we'll do the second session, which is the infinite love light healing, total body clearing. This is when I would go in, and basically what it's like for me, like, let's say you actually have a physical problem that we know about. we go into, after we do the chakra stuff, a couple days later, we go into this session, and it's like a scan. We start at the top of your head and we just start working down. And it's a multi-system thing that's going on. I'm feeling the body because I'm a physical empath. So I'm feeling what the body's feeling. I'm getting visions of stuff. The higher self of the person, the higher soul self is giving me information. I'm also getting stuff like what you said in the intro. I work with the angelic realms. So in the healings, I'm getting information from a lot of different places. I'll see stuff. I worked once with a friend and client had a prostate issue. He had cancer. And in that healing, when we got to his prostate, I could see what the prostate looked like. I got the vision of it. So I'll get all sorts of different things. And I'll also just kind of know what you may have multiple issues. There may be a heart thing, a diabetes thing. You may have a bad back. You may have, a lot of people have multiple things, but I could go through a body and we could just hear heart looks good, check. This looks good, check. Oh, we got to work on this thing. We'll just like concentrate on that. And it's all this energy that we bring down. It's the highest vibration in creation. It's what our souls are made of. It's our life force battery. It's what heals us. And we just infuse that into the body as a whole. But if there's a specific thing, a specific problem, ailment, whatever, we get into that. One of my past clients, she's had a major problem with asthma, breathing problems, just chest issues, lung issues, and with the whole thing with COVID. She's also an empath. It's just her heart chakra. She's just really absorbent there. We had my free meeting that I do with people, the consultation, and just the moment she got on, I went, oh my gosh, you worry about people a lot. She's like, yeah. And I just went, and I just felt this tightness all in here. It was super tight from the throat. I go, do you have something going on with your throat? She's like, yeah, it's really bad these last couple of days. And I'm like, oh my God. Because it was just so instant. It was just this tightness. And I've been feeling that through COVID for sure. I've been having to clear out my body a lot because I cycle for the collective that's going on. Just fear itself of that will bring up that and anything associated with this whole area from chest to throat and third eye even. But yeah, it's just about kind of where I'm guided. So we might have a plan. Like you might say, like, I've gotten into like our basic, like the healthy person total body, because everybody needs to be cleared out. My thing is, you may have an ailment, a chronic illness, a situation, a chronic pain or whatever, and yeah, I could totally help you and take care of that, and I do. But it's important for people to understand, especially if you're a light worker, an empath, a healer, a seer, anybody that works in that way where connection and clear energy and maximum flow and groundedness and infusion and all of this stuff is so important. So I cater to I split my practice in two ways. Those who have chronic illnesses and pains and ailments that need to figure out, get cleared and get back to a neutral in that sense. And then for people who are already figured out and that they don't have any pains, but they still need to get cleared out as a light worker, as an empath, as somebody who does that work because of everything that happens with what we do. And it's just there are a couple of hours, like I said with my other thing, it doesn't feel like it. It really doesn't feel like. I've had everybody go, wow, I can't believe that 2.5 hours went by, and it didn't feel like that. It feels more like 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And we just let your body do what it does and let it chillax for a week or two, and we just see. I have a follow-up with you, and we talk about it, because after the actual healing, both of those sessions, we're not going to sit and talk about it. You're going to do your thing and feel good, and I'm going to quietly disconnect and leave you in that space, and then we'll talk about it. And it's about getting that person to a neutral space. A lot of times they do experience a lot of extra sensitivity, because just like anything, once you take away all the things that are buffering, you tend to get super extra sensitive. So like my last client, she's like, I'm having a hard time being around people. And I said, yeah, I kind of do advise, if you can, to carve out at least 24 hours where you don't have to be around other people. And I know that can be really hard, but if you can, just because as you're transmuting and regulating and figuring out the new you, anybody else's energy is just gonna, you're gonna feel it.
Exactly. You got to figure out the new you. You got space for that. You got to let it percolate in.
Yeah, and it takes some time, but there's always like because it's like any kind, it's a detox. It's different than a lot of other types of healings. It's not just like, oh, you go and it's done there and it's finished there and you feel better and you go on with your life. This is the kind of thing where one of my past clients, she said, she goes, this is a legit transmutation. She's like, this is legit. Like, you're not the same. And it's
not the same person. Yeah.
Not the same person anymore. And you have to understand that. For some people, they're so excited for that. They're like, I can't wait for this. And for some people, they kind of really drag their feet getting to that space, because there's the unknown after that. Well, then what? Then what? And I get that. I totally do. It's a little scary to go, well, if I'm not me, then who am I? You're just going to be more authentic.
Version 2.0.
Yeah, it's still you.
It's you better.
It's 2.0 you or whatever. It's just better you, because you don't have all that crap attached to you. You're attached better to the energy. We have to understand, we're practically 50% water, 50% energy. We're in an organic body. We're on this huge, beautiful, energetic planet with water and energy and everybody else's energetic bodies. We have the cosmos and the sun and all of the things that are coming at us energetically that most people are not aware of. And, it's not on the news. Like, this is our astrological weather for the next week. Heads up, people. You just kind of have to understand that all of these things are a factor. And if your own system is already gunked up, you're going to have a problem traveling. It's like you bought a car, however old you are. If you're 50 years old and if you have a 50-year-old car and you never gave that car a real tune-up or really cleaned its engine out or had any kind of maintenance done at all, it's not going to run as well. It's going to use
it's
more
going to
gas.
be really crunchy.
It's going to be, it's
crusty and
it's
uncomfortable. Achy.
Not going to be a smooth ride. It's going to be not good, So people don't see themselves
you pour
that way.
wine in there instead of oil.
Exactly. So people just don't see themselves as that machine, You have to see it, because energy is not like, we see the body, we see when we see certain things, but even our medicine doesn't talk to us that way. People don't get into a car accident and get a broken leg, and then and then in the ER they go, okay, you're gonna have a surgeon, then you're gonna have your regular doctor, you're gonna have physical therapy, and then you're also gonna have your energetic specialist come in and help you with the energetic trauma.
I think we're getting there, though. We're getting there, Infiniti.
Oh, I want
they're starting to figure it out. We'll be part of the support team. Don't you worry.
Yeah, it's
happening.
It's one of those things that it's just been like that whole, like, the blinder to the whole circle. It's like people have thought that they're working with the whole circle of wellness, but they're not. They're not.
If you're not dealing with the energy, you're missing a good part of the picture.
A huge part of the
like picture. A huge part that could solve things a lot quicker, actually.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm actually writing an article right now.
Oh, good.
It's about trauma, and if you have trauma and how to help your trauma now. And I go into the energy stuff of it, and because that, no matter when your trauma was, so it's new trauma, old trauma, no matter what kind of trauma it is, it creates an energetic signature and scar or hole or whatever you want, however you want to see it.
Or it just lodges itself someplace, and it's you know. So you need somebody
Yeah.
that can help you navigate it, because navigating the energetic space and the subconscious space it requires an expert navigator. It requires somebody that's designed to navigate that space, basically. It's
Well,
just
you know what?
once you learn how
I
to do it yourself, it's fine, but you got to
yeah,
learn how. You know, it's
yeah,
just like driving a car. You have to figure out how to drive a car. You got to learn how to ride a bike. You got to learn how to navigate your subconscious and learn
yeah,
how it's speaking to you. It's like dream therapy is, you know, dream interpreting dreams, but like, this is more than that. This is on the inside, because I do this work too. It's like this is on the inside, learning how to navigate your inner space, your body, what it's talking to you about, you know, the feelings associated with it, you know, the memories or things associated with a part of your body that's hurting as you go into that part. You know, there's like a lot to it. There's actually a lot. So you have to,
yeah,
you need help to navigate that space, to figure out how to navigate it and
yeah.
get the answers.
And our bodies do some really interesting things. I'll share with you what I've been going through these last couple weeks, which is really interesting, because it's something that other people go through, and it really is. It's a physical manifestation of energy. So what's been going on with me is that for about 3 weeks now, I've been getting these welts on my body.
Mm.
And you would swear that they're bug bites. You would swear that they're bug bites at first, like really bad mosquito bites. I can show you my arm here. I don't know if you can see, because
Not really.
these are already finally going
Faintly.
away.
Mhm.
But what they are from a couple of things. They're energetic eruptions. Um, there's okay. There's the ascension part of my own physicality. What's going on? I'm downloading. I'm upgrading. There's been so much going on recently as far as upgrades and bringing in more light and just transmutation and releasement all through May into June. Today, in fact, is 6/6 of 2020. We're beginning a new Stargate, so it's a whole new like thing happening right now. But that just in my own body, that's happening. Then we have what's going on in the collective, and I kind of got a couple of these like the week before. And at first I didn't even, I so connected, was like, what is happening? What, like, I was like, I just got bit by, I would be sitting right here. Like I just got bit by something. And I'm like, I didn't, like, there's nothing here. And it took me a little bit. And then I did this guided astral meditation on my podcast for cord cutting. I was guided to do that. And it was amazing, amazing meditation. And I suggest anybody do it who is interested in cord cutting. Listen to it first before you do it if you want. But it was like a real big kind of thing to put out into the collective. And then because that I did, and I facilitated that kind of like pod of healing, I guess you could say, for any of the collective that are going to be connected to it, along with me doing my own ascension and everything else. It was just like so much energy for my body to be connected to and be absorbing. So as my body's transmuting energy, as I'm doing healings, as I'm downloading and all of this stuff, it's actually coming out in my body physically. And I had one on my, I don't know if you can still see it, it's kind of gone away. I had one right here. What's really interesting is that we as humans, we have energetic wings, and they're meant to come up and out of our spinal column, leave the body. And that's kind of how we have, like, for those of us who have seen or know what angelics look like and why they have that depiction with the wings, is their energy comes out. They're oblong, and then it comes out so they can do their thing with their energy. We're very similar, no matter what our soul identification might be. Physically, as humans, we have this capability to channel so much energy that it's not meant to actually stay in the body. It's meant to leave the body through our wings. And years ago, about 10 years ago, I was just, so this isn't the first situation that I've had like this. I had a situation about 10 years ago where obviously I was sitting there and I was taking care of this little girl, and out of nowhere, I felt like I got either burned or stung by a bee on my back, like right on my shoulder blade. And my friend comes rushing over in a store. There's nothing on my back, but it is so painful. And it set off this event in my body that nobody could explain. If I went into the sun, it felt like my body would burn. I had to be like under shade. I got hives in my mouth, but that's the only place. So this time it's all over my body, not in my mouth. I can stand the sun, but if the sun hits those spots, it activates them so it can make them itchy. But I got them, and I have a picture of this. I got them both about a week and a half ago on the bottom of each of my shoulder blades, right at the bottom tip of that wing area. And that whole area down my back was just completely numb for about 4 days, just from cycling through more energy and it expanding. And every time I go into meditation, more of these welts come up. But I'm supposed to go into meditation. I'm supposed to obviously connect. I'm supposed to lead people in meditation, do these things. But every time I do, it activates stuff and my body. So I'm having to, even as much as I'm being guided to clear myself, heal myself, go into water, do these things, my body, there's just so much. And I'm probably not doing it 100% right. But the point is that energy manifests in our body and for different reasons all the time. And sometimes it's really uncomfortable, even if it's a good thing. And I want people to understand that. Sometimes when we're receiving into our heart chakra and our heart chakra is expanding, it can be really physically uncomfortable. When we're receiving into our crown or is receiving into our third eye, we can get these, they could be painful. So we just need to understand that from an emotional, spiritual, and physical standpoint, ascension is not easy. And we just have to accept the growing pains and try to understand ourselves as best as we can and what's going on and navigate, stay on the board as we're riding a wave.
As you ride the wave, stay on that surfboard. Gosh, that's beautiful. Well, thank you so much for what a powerful conversation and so many insights, and really appreciate that. I'm going to direct people to your podcast and to your website. Is there anything else that you want to share with people on the way out? Any last words or
oh wow,
gift you want to offer? I know you've got meditations on in your podcast, right? So they can access those.
Yeah, I do. I started doing those. This week has been a little weird, so I haven't done a couple in a couple days, but I just started this thing a week or two, whatever it was ago. I don't remember, where I'm doing like daily meditations on it. You could check those out on my podcast. I'm also uploading, I do some music stuff on there too. As far as my offers for people would just be to please just check out my website, go to the different areas and read about, like, be guided to whatever, wherever you might be guided to. If you're guided to possibly work with me, please fill out a questionnaire and we can have that hour or so powwow and all that. And like I said, I started writing on Medium. So there's also that, all that stuff is kind of like on my website and my blog. So, and then just aside from that, just with everything going on, just to recognize everybody that keeping our frequency as light as possible, not letting too much pull us down as we're filtering all of this, taking time out, really listening to your body. I guess that's my last thing here would be just please, please, please listen to your guides, listen to your body. If you're scared to meditate or think it's hard, please understand that it's not. And it's really the key to getting in balance with everything. That's about it. Thank you so much, Carrie. You're the best.
Infiniti.
It's been so great to talk to you. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for sharing all your wisdom. Okay, well, I'm going to give everybody kisses now, but before I do, I want to just encourage everybody, if you got a lot out of this, please like and comment and share. because that's how the engines know that this is important, is because they get engagement. So engage with us wherever you found the interview, on iTunes or YouTube or wherever. And now here come your kisses. These are COVID-free energetic kisses. And they're coming your way with lots of love. Here they come. You can join me if you want.
For sure.
See you guys next time on Soul Nectar. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.